Hello, guys and gals, and welcome to another episode of Monster Families. Today we're going to be going over the next one in the list, which is the Corrupt Lancers, or the Corrupt Spearwomen. It depends on which one you come to. The Corrupt Rogues essentially take up three different positions. There's the Corrupt Rogues, which are basically just sword and shield wielders and have no special abilities whatsoever that I covered previously. And then there is the Corrupt Lancers, which do have special abilities. And then the Corrupt Archers, which are obviously a completely different breed since they fire ranged attacks. These are the Corrupt Lancers right here. And as you can see, they look very similar to the Corrupt Rogues from the previous video. Although they seem to have like some sort of freaky toes going on. Like, they definitely, like, you can't really see their feet in the old version, but they definitely have some freaky looking toes going on. Like, some sort of like claw looking things. I don't know. The Lancers, obviously, one of their main things is that they attack with, well, lances. That makes them apart from the regular version, which is the ones that attack with the sword and shield, but it's more than that. So the Lancers, first off, they do have special abilities, and it depends on which Lancer you actually encounter, and there's a lot of different Lancers. So the Vile Lancers, as the name would suggest, will poison you in Nightmare difficulty and Hell difficulty. The Dark Lancers have the ability to deal cold damage in Nightmare and Hell. The Black Lancers have the chance to deal lightning damage in Nightmare and Hell, and the Flesh Lancers have a chance to deal fire in Nightmare and Hell. And that might explain why these guys are often really nasty, but that doesn't end there. There are also guest monsters that are in Act 5, and the guest monsters also have their own special abilities. The Vile Lancers and the Black Lancers use the Jab and Power Strike abilities, Power Strike being the lightning attack on the Amazon, and Jab being a multi-hit thrust. Dark Lancers can use Jab and Ice Spear, which is kind of like a cold version of Power Strike, and something that I didn't even know existed. There's basically a ice variant of Power Strike. That's pretty cool. I wonder why they never added it into the game. That would have been a really interesting addition. Now, Ice Lancers, or rather all the Lancers, have relatively low block chance, as you can see here, 6% block chance, and relatively low block chance here as well, only up to 24% with the Flesh Lancers being the highest one, but still relatively low across the board. They also have a pretty generic HP, like nothing too fancy, and their resistance is kind of poor. They have no magic resistance at all. Their fire resistance is very low, except for the Vile Lancer that is immune to fire, but that is breakable. Their cold resistance is very low at 25%, which is breakable easily, but of course the 130% here might not be breakable with the Flesh Lancer. She's immune to cold. And then we have the lightning variants. A lot of them are immune to lightning, surprisingly. The Dark Spearwoman is immune to lightning. The Dark Lancer and the Black Lancer are all immune to lightning, but all eminently breakable at that percentage. And then we have the poison. They're all basically very weak to poison. Not very high resistances, not very high defenses. And that's not really what these guys were designed for. They were designed for, well, offense is what they're designed for. They dish out pretty good damage with those big giant spears that they wield, and they also have a multitude of ways to just ruin your day. Obviously, the Vile Lancers can poison you, the Dark Lancers have cold damage, the Black Lancers have lightning, the Flesh Lancers have fire, and so forth and so on. And then when you get to Hell difficulty, they're even more nasty because they also have actual abilities like Jab, and they also have Power Strike or Ice Spear, which cause them to do more elemental damage. If you've ever been like waylaid by a pack of these, you would know that, well, yeah, they're kind of nasty, especially in a large group and with the range that they have, because they're wielding these big giant spears. They tend to be able to hit you from much further away than other targets, which means that when they group up on you in like a big giant pack, they tend to be able to beat the ever-loving crap out of you relatively quickly. They also die relatively easily, though. So, like, as you can see, their resistances really aren't all that great. They don't really tend to have very much of anything. They even have a little bit on the low end of physical resistance for most monsters in Hell difficulty. So in Hell difficulty, like, the average is 50%, and they're at 45. So they're 5% below average on physical resistance. All in all, I think they do make good revives. And the reason why they make good revives is because they have variable abilities, first off. So they can do various things like poison you or freeze you or whatever. The other thing is that, well, their range is very good. As you can see the difference, you see the gap between me and them. Like, you see how much of a distance is in between me and them, and they can still hit me. If I find a regular monster like a Fallen, and you watch the Fallen will get much closer to me in general. Like, he has to get closer. And the reason why the Fallen has to get so close is because they have very short-range weapons, essentially. And this means that, well, if you have a pack of these as revives, you will be able to hit the target with more monsters. So in other words, think about it like this. If you had a bunch of little tiny short-range monsters who are all attacking a target, then they're going to fill up the available space around that player or around that monster that you're attacking relatively quickly, and then there's going to be no more space around the monster for available hits. But if you're using a relatively long-ranged monster like this, then you're going to have more space, essentially, around a monster to hit that monster. So you're going to have more monsters hitting that target, essentially, because you have more range, which does actually make them quite better in terms of, like, their revive potential. On top of this, not only are they better for their range, but obviously you can find the elementally attuned versions. So you could go to the specific places where each one of these types are, and you could find the elementally attuned versions. Like, for instance, if you want the poison type, the Vile Lancer is the poison type. Or you could potentially go for a different type, like the cold or the fire or the lightning, etc. Allowing you to kind of like pick and choose what kind you would like, which means that they all end up being more useful than you would give them credit for. All in all, though, like, not really the most dangerous in terms of survivability. Like, in my opinion, most of the time when I encounter these, they are dangerous and I prioritize killing them. But because I prioritize killing them and because they are so weak most of the time, you can usually take them out with, you know, a wave of your hand, essentially. These are corrupted rogues. As you can see here, it says the corruption of the Sisterhood has also turned many who were skilled in the use of spears and javelins to the cause of evil. These warriors now use their talents to eviscerate those who seek to stop the corruption that is slowly spreading across Canduras. Using a mix of piercing weapons, these corrupt rogues can be especially dangerous when they back their prey into a corner and use the length of their weapons to gain a tactical advantage. And I think that's one of the things that makes them the most dangerous, is just simply the fact that they have ridiculous range. You'll often get into a situation where you'll have many of these chasing you, like an entire pack or maybe even 2 packs of them chasing you, and then they surround you. And when you get surrounded by some monsters, you really can't get hit by all of them. But when you get surrounded by a pack of Lancers, you're going to get hit by all the Lancers. Like, it's just, they don't care, like, where you're standing. They're going to hit you anyway. Like, if I dive into a pack of, got a Lancer right here. Give me my Lancer. These are just regular hunters. These are just little babies. These are just little baby monsters. Like, if I dive into a pack of Fallen, they can only fill so many spaces around me before, you know, before that's it, right? So, like, they can't really fill that much space around me, and I can only get hit by so many of them at one time. However, the Lancers, on the other hand, I mean, look at them. Like, look how far away they are from the monsters, and they're still hitting everything. I do think they make good revives because of this, just simply because they are easier to attack a target without risking retaliation. And what that means is that, like, in a lot of situations when you're attacking, monsters attacking you, they have to be within range, right? Well, like, if these guys are out of range most of the time, then the monster has to turn around, walk toward them, and then attack them. Which means that the monsters are moving more often when they're attacking your Spearwomen, essentially. It's too bad you can't have, like, a spear-based summon on a regular basis, because they do make very effective summons, but these guys only really appear in Act 1. It's Not really, they don't really appear much else except for in the Act 5 guest list, which you'll find them in places like I think the Crystalline Passage or Glacial Pass. There's a couple places you'll encounter some of these like Vile Lancers, Dark Lancers, and Black Lancers. I'm pretty sure that I find them occasionally in Frigid Highlands and like Ariat Plateau and stuff. Um, Overall, though, like they're rare. Like I had to spend like 10 minutes like flitting through various areas just to find these guys. I don't know why they're so rare. Sometimes you'll have maps where like literally it feels like they're all over the place, and then sometimes you just never see the Lancers. And it's not necessarily that the corrupt rogues are rare, because you'll see the corrupt rogues all the time. There's the sword and shield variant, there's the spear variant, there's the archer variant, and you'll see the archer and the sword and shield variant all the time. The spear one seems to be the one that's a little bit more uncommon. Although when you do see it, when it is in an area, oh god, they're going to be chasing you around forever. Like I feel like I get chased around by these guys whenever I encounter them. I'm always getting chased around by them. They are a little bit of a nuisance for lightning-based characters early on, because the lightning immune ones, which is the Dark Spearwomen, the Dark Lancers, and the Black Lancers. Three of the variants are immune to lightning, and they can be especially annoying for, say, if you're like a Lightning Javazon just trying to level up through the zone, or if you are like a Lightning Sorceress and so forth and so on. It's number one, it's because they're very aggressive. Number two, it's because obviously they're immune to lightning. And number three, they also tend to have a pretty decent amount of elemental damage too, which causes them to kind of rip through your defenses, both physically and elementally, which can be absolutely a pain in the butt for those lightning-based classes that are rolling through hell difficulty and encountering a lot of immunities. I think that's pretty much it for these guys, or gals, rather, because, well, they're not like the super specialist monsters in the game. Like, you wouldn't necessarily seek them out deliberately to make them into revives, but then again, like, you wouldn't avoid them either. They're definitely useful when you do have them, but they're not like Erdar level, where you hunt them down specifically because they're one of the best revives in the game. Anyway, as always, I do appreciate you guys and gals joining. Be sure to hit that like button and the subscribe button if you enjoy the content. And as always, keep watching.